I wanted to ask you something because I know that you did production. You have the people around you that have blessed you with showing, like what you just finished saying, giving you tips. Same here. One thing that I wanted to touch on was I wanted to talk about hip hop, the 4 elements of hip hop. We were having a show, and I guess you tapped in, and somebody was saying how hip hop had saved his life, and then you had commented, hip hop saved us all, or hip hop saved all of our lives in a sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when we say the word hip hop, we know that the 4 elements of hip hop is DJing,
right,
MCing,
right,
breaking or dancing,
right,
and graffiti,
right.
Okay. Now, those 4 elements, that is it safe to say a culture, and rapping is what you do? Yeah,
I would say that is the culture as a whole, right?
Right.
And it's become more than that. And what we do is, part of that culture, a branch from that culture, right? So, hip hop is something that we actually live because we do it.
Right.
We're immersed in it. We love it. And, we all have different, lanes in it.
Right.
As DJs, as MCs, as artists, as dancers, as MCs, but now it's expanded into producers, songwriters, backup dancers, and just it sort of unfolded in a way that it expanded and created other lanes for other folks that maybe didn't do the DJing, maybe didn't, wasn't really going to be an MC or from a B-boy crew or any of that shit, but because they love it and support it, they found a lane within it.
Right.
And that's the cool thing about hip hop, because no one ever thought, 1, it was going to last, 2, that it would become one of the top selling genres in all music.
Yes.
And for it to create all these different lanes, because now you have photographers, videographers, people of all different fucking backgrounds working within the hip hop culture, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And that's big. Nobody saw that fucking coming. And for us that have lived it all this time, you have to embrace it, because this is the fruits of your labor. Everybody that worked towards making this what it is.
Right.
We're all trying to make our own way and make a living for sure. But what we do individually works, it works for the culture as a whole. And I think everybody's done a fucking great job. No matter if you like the face of what hip hop is now, or you loved what it was before.
Right.
It's evolved so many times, and it's going to keep evolving. You'll never keep it one way. But that's the greatness of it.
Right. And one thing that I will say is that for me, when I first interviewed, and I learned from a lot of people that I interviewed. For an example, I had Violet Brown here. I had Lonzo from the World Class Wrecking Crew, Clientele, Arabian Prince, Calvin Anderson, the owner of VIP Records. So I had a lot of greats in here. And I asked them all this one question at different times. When hip hop first came in, and when rap, and you guys were in the industry, what were people saying? And they all had one common answer, that it's a fad and it won't be here, in a couple of months, or maybe even a year. It won't be here that long, but it's been here now since the beginning now.
Yeah, since what, 76, 77 or something like that?
August 11th, 1973, Kool Herc's first.
Yeah, 73, shit.
All good.
Crazy, right? But that's always the thing, right? People that did hip hop back then, to where it always it evolved to, was street people that lived in our, the neighborhoods we come from, no matter where it was at, whether it was in New York or LA.
Right.
And it's a voice, it's a platform for people from where we come from.
Yes.
And to talk about the struggles and shit like that, or the good times that we're having within the struggles, like having an optimistic look at it, right? But either way, it was something that uplifted and educated people and inspired people.
Yes.
And to see where it's gone to where, you know, we were like, where the hip hop genre was the stepchild of all. Punk and hip hop were looked down upon.
Yeah.
And punk and hip hop have so much shit in common, other than, you know, aside from the music, obviously, this, you know, the style of music that comes out, but
Yeah.
the angst, the need to rebel, the need to fucking tell the truth and call shit out. Both punk and hip hop did that. You know, it's just that hip hop, I think, connected in a way that punk never could.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? And punk eventually did connect, and there's punk pop and all that shit, but
Right.
hip hop was the voice of the kids in the streets, man.
Right,
You
right.
know, and it's powerful. It's a powerful voice, and the fact that now it went from the stepchild to being like, hey, fuck all y'all.
Right. Right.
It's a testament to our stories.
Yes.
You know, not just one story of any artist, but like all our stories.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. You know, and I know I'm speaking for both of us as well, that I'm sure we have lost some friends along the way. I'm 53 years old, okay? And when I say we lost some friends, a lot of our friends gotten killed with some hood banging shit.
True that.
And me started off with pop locking, and from there it evolved into DJing. And this, believe it or not, is what kept me off the streets. Staying at home, wanting to perfect that perfect scratch, you know, that perfect blend, so that one day I know when my mom will let me go out, you know, that I can rock the fucking party.
Right.
You know, and that's when I say hip hop saved my life, because this is one of the elements of hip hop.
Yeah.
So this is what kept me off the street, and rapping and producing as well for you is what.
That got me off, because realistically, you know, I was banging at the time when Muggs and Sen and Mello were getting their were trying to get Mello a deal, and 783 had gotten their deal. We knew Muggs before he was in 783, but that was his first in. And with that in, he was trying to get Mello in and whatnot. I was like banging,
Right.
you know, straight up. And they knew I had a capability to write. You know, that was my connection into the culture. I mean, you know, we were MCs. It was a hobby, but like for a minute I broke away and I started doing this other shit while they stood with it. And when they came to me, it was at the point where they had already done the stuff with 783. Now it was, they were working on mellow shit. And they asked me to come write a song, which was River Cubanos, right?
Yeah.
And then I ended up writing something else. I think it was Tacapella. And I wrote that, and I realized, oh shit, I could still, you know, I could still write. I wasn't rapping on it, but I knew I could still get down. So that sort of piqued my interest back into, you know, getting into it. It's like, cause I had spent all this time like straight up banging, you know? You know, when you're indoctrinated, man, you ain't seeing shit else.
Right.
Because I used to fight them on that. I'll come to the studio with, nah, man, what am I gonna do, man?
Right.
Gonna make no money doing that shit. I'm in the hood, you know, doing this and that. And they're like, come on, man, what you got to lose? And finally, I don't know what happened, but I was like, all right, you know what? I'll go in there with y'all and see what it's about. And, you know, again, I wrote those 2 songs, and it wasn't that hard. And I thought, fuck, this shit sounds pretty good. Maybe I'll spend more time with these dudes again and you know, try to get back into the music. And slowly but surely it reeled me out, because that's when Muggs came back. He was kind of like, you know, he didn't necessarily love the direction of where 783 was going, and he didn't have a lot of input, and he didn't like that shit. So he loved those guys, but he didn't like the fact that he didn't have the input because he felt this shit was important. And I don't think, you know, he was ready to hold back anymore, and he knew that doing some shit with us,
Right.
he could do it exactly the way he envisioned it, and we would go with it. So, you know, he pulled me to the side and said, hey, let's do something. Because Sen was still kind of rocking with his brother at this point,
Right.
doing hype man work for Mello. And so me and Muggs started working together, and then we eventually pulled Sen Dog in, and we started making it happen. So I started taking the shit more serious, you know, because I knew Muggs was serious. He's not a dude that's gonna be pulling you you know, into some shit without thought. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's not gonna waste his time or your time, but more importantly, his time.
Right, right.
You know what I
right.
mean? So it's like, hey, Lou, come on, let's do this and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, we'll get Send Dog. And so I made the decision right there. And that shit did save me, because at the point that I was at, before they came and got me, you know, a lot of my homies were locked up at the time. Some of
Right.
the shot caller homies and shit like that. And some of us young bucks were on the street. So at that point, you know, somebody's gonna get the task of, okay, now you're running this situation for
Right.
us right now until so and so comes out. We're putting this shit in your hands. And it was very close to that point. And if I had got to that point, I would not have been able to pull out.
Yeah,
Cause it's, you know how it is when they're saying, okay, this is what it is.
yeah,
Now you're committed on a whole other fucking level. So, you know, I was right there
yeah,
when these dudes came with, hey, come fuck with this music. So
Yeah.
it was like a crazy time.
yeah.
And I chose up with the music, and that, you know,
Saved your life.
saved my life. Because it's, you know, the old stories, right? Prison or the grave or the wheelchair.
Yeah.
And that's
That's it. That's your only choices.
the reality of it. You know, some motherfuckers are lucky and they come out unscathed. But I wasn't that type of dude. I knew I didn't have that luck. I had already been shot. I come from a line of motherfuckers that were cursed like this. My father shot 12 times. My brother, rest in peace, he was shot 3 times. I was lucky with 1. You know what I mean? But it was down the line like that. So I knew, okay, if I'm gonna stick with this shit, I better be good.
Yeah.
Because I already know what the path is if I'm gonna stay in this. So, you know, the music, godsend.
That's dope.